The Sea of Okhotsk is a marginal sea of the western Pacific Ocean, lying between the Kamchatka Peninsula on the east, the Kuril Islands on the southeast, the island of Hokkaidō to the south, the island of Sakhalin along the west, and a long stretch of eastern Siberian coast along the west and north. The northeast corner is the Shelikhov Gulf. The sea is named after Okhotsk, the first Russian settlement in the Far East. Geography. The Sea of Okhotsk covers an area of 1,583,000 square kilometers, with a mean depth of 859 meters and a maximum depth of 3,372 meters. It is connected to the Sea of Japan on either side of Sakhalin, on the west through the Sakhalin Gulf and the Gulf of Tartary. On the south, through the Copyright-Rouse Strait. In winter, navigation on the Sea of Okhotsk becomes difficult, or even impossible, due to the formation of large ice flows, because the large amount of fresh water from the Amur River lowers the salinity which results in raising the freezing point of the sea. The distribution and thickness of ice flows depends on many factors, the location, the time of year, water currents, and the sea temperatures. With the exception of Hokkaidō, one of the Japanese home islands, the sea is surrounded on all sides by territory administered by the Russian Federation. Extent equals, the International Hydrographic Organization defines the limits of the Sea of Okhotsk as follows. On the southwest, the northeastern and northern limits on the Japan Sea, in Rouse Strait. A line joining Zani Misaki and Nishinotara Misaki. From Cape Tuik to Cape Sashkiva. On the southeast, a line running from Nosyabusaki in the island of Hokkaidō through the Kuril Islands to Cape Lopatka in such a way that all the narrow waters between Hokkaidō and Kamchatka are included in the Sea of Okhotsk. Islands. Some of the Sea of Okhotsk's islands are quite large, including Japan's second largest island, Hokkaidō, as well as Russia's largest island, Sakhalin. Practically all of the sea's islands are either in coastal waters or belong to the various islands making up the Kuril Islands chain. These fall either under undisputed Japanese or Russian ownership or disputed ownership between Japan and Russia. Iony Island is the only island located in open waters and belongs to the Khabarovsk Krai of the Russian Federation. The majority of the sea's islands are uninhabited, making them ideal breeding grounds for seals, sea lions, seabirds, and other sea island fauna. Large colonies, with over 1 million individuals, of crested auklets use the Sea of Okhotsk as a nesting site. History. Russian explorers Ivan Moskvitin and Vasily Polyakov were the first Europeans to visit the Sea of Okhotsk in the 1640s. The Dutch captain Martin Gerrits Vries in the Breskens entered the Sea of Okhotsk from the southeast in 1643, and charted parts of the Sakhalin coast and Kuril Islands, but failed to realize that either Sakhalin or Hokkaidō are islands. The first and foremost Russian settlement on the shore was the port of Okhotsk, which relinquished commercial supremacy to iron in the 1840s. The Russian-American company all but monopolized the commercial navigation of the sea in the first half of the 19th century. The second Kamchatka expedition under Vitus Bering systematically mapped the entire coast of the sea, starting in 1733. Jean-François Section de la Part Copyright-Rouse and William Robert Broughton were the first non-Russian European navigators known to have passed through these waters other than Martin Gerrits Vries. Ivan Krasenstein explored the eastern coast of Sakhalin in 1805. Mimorinza and Gennady Nevelskoy determined that the Sakhalin was indeed an island separated from the mainland by a narrow strait. The first detailed summary of the hydrology of the Okhotsk Sea was prepared and published by Stepan Makarov in 1894. During the Cold War, the Sea of Okhotsk was the scene of several successful U.S. Navy operations to tap Soviet Navy undersea communications cables. These operations were documented in the book Blind Man's Bluff, The Untold Story of American Submarine Espionage. The sea were also the scene of the Soviet PV Ostriny attack on Korean Air Flight 007 in 1983. The Soviet Pacific Fleet used the sea as a ballistic missile submarine bastion, a strategy that Russia continues. In the Japanese language, the sea has no traditional Japanese name despite its close location to the Japanese territories and is called Ootsukukai, which is a transcription of the Russian name. Additionally, Okhotsk subprefecture, Hokkaidō, which faces the sea, also known as Okhotsk region, is named after the sea. The Sea of Okhotsk was a hotbed for whaling in the middle of the 19th century. Beginning in 1845, American whale ships began hunting right whales in the southeastern part of the Sea of Okhotsk near the Kuril Islands. The first bowheads were caught in 1847. From 1849 bowheads dominated the catch. Between 1850 and 1853 the majority of the fleet focused their efforts on bowheads in the Bering Strait region. Following poor catches there, whale ships began shifting their attention to the stock of bowhead whales in the Sea of Okhotsk. In 1854 alone some 160 vessels visited the region. Next year more than 130 ships. The next year, in 1856, nearly 150 ships sailed to the Okhotsk. By 1857, the number of ships had declined to a little over 100. With declining catches from 1858 to 1860, the fleet shifted its focus back to the Bering Strait region. Many of the ships converged on the Sakhalin Islands, anchoring within the archipelago's many sheltered bays. On July 28, 1854 the New Bedford ship Isabella reported 94 ships in sight from her deck. A few days later, the Lexington of Nantucket reported 100 whaleboats were about chasing whales. Even here the effects of the American Civil War were felt. In late May 1865, the Confederate States Navy steamer Shenandoah sailed into the Sea of Okhotsk to hunt Union whaling ships. The CSS Shenandoah was a commerce raider, whose mission was to destroy Union merchant shipping and thus draw off United States Navy ships in pursuit and thereby loosen the U.S. Navy blockade of Confederate coasts. The ship spent more than 3 weeks here, but because of the dangerous ice, only destroyed one Union whaler. It then moved on to the North Pacific where it virtually destroyed the U.S. North Pacific whaling fleet, capturing 24 ships and sinking almost all of them. Ships continued to hunt whales in the Sea of Okhotsk until the early 20th century. Oil and gas exploration. 29 zones of possible oil and gas accumulation have been identified on the Sea of Okhotsk shelf, which runs along the coast. Total reserves are estimated at 3.5 billion tons of equivalent fuel, including 1.2 billion tons of oil and 1.5 billion cubic meters of gas. On December 18, 2011 the Russian oil drilling rig Kulskaya capsized and sank in a storm in the Sea of Okhotsk, some 124 kilometers from Sakhalin Island, where it was being towed from Kamchatka. Reportedly its pumps failed, causing it to take on water and sink. The platform carried 67 people, of which 14 were initially rescued by the icebreaker Magadan and the tugboat Naftogas 55. The platform was subcontracted to a company working for the Russian energy giant Gazprom. Notable seaports. Magadan, Russia, population, 95,000, Polana, Kamchatka, Russia, population, 3,000, Abashiri, Hokkaidō, Japan, population, 38,000, Monbetsu, Hokkaidō, Japan, population, 25,000, Wakanai, Hokkaidō, Japan, population, 38,000. See also, 100 Soundscapes of Japan, Peanut Hole. References. External links, Overview of Okhotsk region.